Welcome back. Well, let's return to the possible deal between the Liberal Party and Labor over the superannuation tax. Now, the Australian reports today that Deputy Liberal leader and Shadow Treasurer Ted O'Brien is open to a deal on Labor's plan to tax super, providing they abandon the idea of taxing unrealised gains and index the threshold. Well, I spoke to Ted and asked him about this a little earlier. Ted O'Brien, thank you so much for your time. Your first interview since your new role as Shadow Treasurer. Is it true you're open to doing a deal with Labor on the super tax? And does this mean you're seriously considering supporting raising taxes on superannuation?
No, Sharri. In fact, we think that Labor's super tax is super big and super bad. I can't think of one element of it I like, candidly. And if, though, that Labor does want to speak to the coalition, then they'll have to walk away from a lot of those aspects of what they've put forward. There's no doubt in opposition we will be constructive where we can, but critical where we must. And when it comes to this super tax, at the moment, I see no choice but to be absolutely critical.
So to be clear, you will be opposing the super tax as well as the tax on unrealised capital gains. All elements of this you will be opposing.
Sharri, I can't preempt the final decision that ultimately will come through the party room, but what I can say is that there are aspects of this policy that Labor has put forward which are absolutely egregious. You mentioned a couple there, in particular the unrealised capital gains, and secondly, the lack of indexation. They are probably the most egregious of the lot. As for though where the party room eventually settles, that'll be a matter for the party room. But I can be very clear that in speaking with colleagues, they, like me, see no goodness in this whatsoever.
Because the Australian is reporting today that you would be open to doing a deal with Labor and supporting the tax on superannuation if they lifted the unrealised capital gains tax. So is that report in the Australian today wrong?
The report in the Australian today was accurate, where I made it clear that when it comes to all policies, including this one, the coalition will always be open. However, that doesn't mean a blank cheque. If indeed Jim Chalmers wants to come and have a discussion with the coalition about his super tax, well, he would have to firstly walk away from the unrealised capital gains component at least. He should be compromising on indexation. Now, if he caves in on all of those things and wants to talk about super reform, Sharri, let's have a chat about super reform.
All right, so
we'll be open to those discussions.
Because we've had some conflicting positions here. So just to be clear, if he walked away from the unrealised capital gains component, then you would consider supporting the superannuation tax? If
Jim Chalmers confirms he will walk away from the unrealised capital gains component and the indexation, then I think we can have a conversation. That does not mean that he will necessarily get support, but that's at least the basis for a conversation, because right now it is so unreasonable. This is such a bad policy that there is no possibility of any arrangement between the coalition and Labor. But if Labor sees the light and walks away from a whole bunch of issues here, especially those I mentioned, then certainly we can have a discussion. Now, whether they will or not, Sharri, your guess is as good as mine.